I want to welcome Elise Jordan to the table. People are seeing you as we continue this discussion. But let's go back into the document for a moment, and we'll bring you here into the conversation. Necklace, Susan Necklace, Donald Trump's attorney, asking Stormy Daniels, you gave a whole description of what President Trump's hotel suite looked like. Daniels, yes. Necklace, black and white tile. You recall that? Daniels, yes. Necklace, you said you were supposed to include detail in your testimony. They said you were supposed to include detail in your testimony. Daniels, there's nothing wrong with preparing a witness. I would hope that any attorney would do that. Daniels, there's nothing wrong with detail. They are truthful facts. I don't need to match things to my book. Necklace, you know there is no way to check on the details of what you said happened. Daniels, right. Necklace, 18 years ago, you said the door was open a crack. Daniels, he was standing right there. It had its own elevator. Necklace, your story about what happened with you and President Trump has changed over the years. Daniels, no. Necklace, you said you met Donald Trump at a celebrity golf tournament in Lake Tahoe. Daniels, yes. Necklace, Aaron Rodgers, Dan Quayle, Drew Brees, Charles Barkley, Ben Roethlisberger, many celebrities were there. Daniels, yes, and the questioning is continuing. So, Elise, there's been a lot of questions today about Stormy Daniels' story, whether it's changed over the years, whether she's been truthful about this affair, as we were just discussing with the lawyers. In many ways, whether or not the allegations about the affair or the sexual encounter are true are irrelevant when it comes to the crime. But we know it could have made a difference, right, politically for Trump. And that is why the prosecutors are saying he wanted it covered up. What do you think when you think back to 2016, is the story about Stormy Daniels that she's telling something that could have made a difference?
Well, I remember the night that the Access Hollywood tape broke, and I was spinning it here, and it was quite a flurry of activity, and it was just crazy hearing in real time Donald Trump and what he said about women. And it did seem initially, oh, is this the October surprise that's going to make a difference? But then Jim Comey had other ideas. And so you just never really know how something's going to hit in an election cycle, something that you think could be really, really big. Who knows? I'm not going to, second guess if this would have changed the course of the election necessarily. But for a lot of voters who are considering voting for Hillary Clinton in 2016, I did hear in focus groups after the Comey letter was introduced, they hesitated and they wavered and they decided not to cross that boundary. And here today, I think this trial is emblematic of the polarization of everyone in America right now. Everyone has fixed opinions of the two lead characters, Donald Trump, Stormy Daniels. Very little of what is said or goes down at this trial is going to change the political landscape.
I have to wonder, though, if all of these details being just brought up, bubbling back to the surface now before another election where Donald Trump is a candidate. How does this, detail that's coming out in the trial resonate with women who will be going to the polls in November?
I think it's pretty baked in that Donald Trump is a scumbag when it comes to women, and that is what it is. And it's not necessarily going to change. How much worse is this than what was said on the Access Hollywood tape? How much worse is this than the derogatory names he's called women? How much worse is this, some of the things he said about
MSNBC political analyst and co-host of The Weekend here on MSNBC is also the former RNC chairman. So Michael, we are seeing more Trump allies show up in court this week. Rick Scott, senator from Florida, the latest, along with some of his campaign aides like Boris Epstein. We know Eric Trump is the only family member who's been in court throughout these proceedings. What do you make of what Vaughn just shared with us and those comments from Senator Scott?
Well, all the little ducklings are starting to follow behind Mother Duck. I'm sure we're going to start to see a parade of folks fly into this case, fly up to New York, could be a part of this narrative. I take note that Donald Trump just kind of walked by Rick Scott. I assume he knows who the senator is. But
there he is coming back
with
in.
Trump, you never know.
Sorry to interrupt you, Michael. We're just showing that the former president is now heading back into the courthouse. But I'm sorry, Michael, continue.
Okay, yeah, and this is the other thing. I mean, I don't think we need to detail every movement of Donald Trump. It plays into his narrative to make him something other than what he actually is, and that's a criminal defendant. And I think we need to be very careful about that and how we present this story to the country. And that's important when it comes to what we're talking about. Someone like Rick Scott or others coming up and being able to mouth the words that Donald Trump has been gagged from doing. It's laughable to go after the judge's daughter who contributed money to a campaign, to a Democratic campaign. So that disqualifies that judge or somehow makes them biased. I give you Eileen Cannon, who was appointed by Donald Trump, who just delayed the trial for inexplicable reasons. Oh, I know, to help Donald Trump. So, Rick Scott, are you going to address that? Is Eileen Cannon somehow a bad actor, a bad faith actor in this? No, of course not, because it's furthering Donald Trump's narrative. It's delaying one of the most important trials of this century. So I think we need to put all of this in perspective and understand exactly what's happening here and treat it the way we would any other scenario involving Donald Trump. And that is making sure the lies are rebuffed and refuted and not leveling up his storyline any more than we already have, because it just bakes in a narrative about him that undermines the case that he's involved in. And that is, let's let the case play out and let the jury decide his guilt or innocence, instead of trying to, play along this sort of TV narrative with Donald Trump coming out and spewing crazy.
And right now, the Judge Marsan, is asked to get back to the witness inside that courthouse. And Michael, it's interesting because oftentimes one wonders how much of this could play a part outside, right? And then we're looking at 6 months till the election. Elise was just saying that for the most part, most people have who Trump is, according to them, baked in. Is this something that you think could change the needle?
Yeah, I think to some degree it can. I mean, if a jury comes back with a conviction here, that's a very powerful statement. It says that Donald Trump, as we saw with the the Jean Carroll case, was, culpable. And as he's been shown culpable in the past, whether it's Trump University or managing his business affairs. So this becomes another part of that narrative that voters then have to assess, Jose, in their decision on who the next president of the United States should be. An already adjudged criminal defendant, someone who's been adjudged a sexual predator, someone who's been found guilty of bad business practices, or the current president, who the worst thing he's done is get, infrastructure bills done. I mean, so, this is the way that the states have to look at this, and those battleground states, the voters in those battleground states, right, and voters across the country are going to have to assess this election. This will play a part in that for sure.
Michael Steele, thank you so much for taking some of